The 24th Book of Homer's Iliads. The Argument. Jove, entertaining care of Hector's course, sends Thetis to her son for his remorse, and fit dismission of it. Iris then he sends to Priam, willing him to gain his son for ransom. He, by Hermes led, gets through Achilles' guards, sleeps deep and dead, cast on them by his guide. When with access and humble suit made to Aeacides, he gains the body, which to Troy he bears, and buries it with feasts, buried in tears. Another argument. Omega sings the exequies, and Hector's redemptory prize. The games performed, the soldiers wholly dispersed to fleet, supper and sleep their only care. Constant Achilles yet wept for his friend, nor sleep itself, that all things doth subdue, could touch at him. This way and that he turned, and did renew his friend's dear memory, his grace in managing his strength, and his strength's greatness, how life racked into their utmost length griefs, battles, and the wraths of seas, in their joint sufferance, each thought of which turned to a tear. Sometimes he would advance in tumbling on the shore, his side, sometimes his face, then turn flat on his bosom, start upright. Although he saw the morn show sea and shore his ecstasy, he left not, till at last rage varied his distraction. Horse, chariot, in haste he called for, and those joined. The course was to his chariot tied, and thrice about the sepulchre he made his fury ride, dragging the person. All this past, in his pavilion rest seized him, but with Hector's course his rage had never done, still suffering it to oppress the dust. Apollo yet, even dead, pitied the prince, and would not see inhuman tyranny fed with more pollution of his limbs, and therefore covered round his person with his golden shield, that rude dogs might not wound his manly lineaments, which threat Achilles cruelly had used in fury. But now heaven let fall a general eye of pity on him. The blessed gods persuaded Mercury, their good observer, to his stealth, and every deity stood pleased with it, Juno except, green Neptune, and the maid graced with the blue eyes. All their hearts stood hatefully apaid long since, and held it, as at first, to Priam, Ilion, and all his subjects, for the rape of his licentious son, proud Paris, that despised these dames in their divine access made to his cottage, and praised her that his sad wantonness so costly nourished. The 12th morn now shined on the delay of Hector's rescue, and then spake the deity of the day thus to the immortals: Shameless gods, authors of ill ye are to suffer ill. Hath Hector's life at all times showed his care of all your rights, in burning thighs of beeves and goats to you, and are your cares no more of him? Vouchsafe ye not even now, even dead, to keep him, that his wife, his mother, and his son, father, and subjects may be moved to those deeds he hath done, seeing you preserve him that served you, and sending to their hands his person for the rites of fire. Achilles, that withstands all help to others, you can help, one that hath neither heart nor soul within him, that will move or yield to any part that fits a man, but lion-like, uplandish, and mere wild slave to his pride, and all his nerves being naturally compiled of eminent strength, stalks out and preys upon a silly sheep. And so fares this man, that fit ruth that now should draw so deep in all the world being lost in him, and shame, a quality of so much weight that both it helps and hurts excessively men in their manners, is not known, nor hath the power to be, in this man's being. Other men a greater loss than he have undergone, a son, suppose, or brother of one womb, yet after dews of woes and tears they bury in his tomb all their deplorings. Fates have given to all that are true men true manly patience, But this man so soothes his bloody vein that no blood serves it. He must have divine-souled Hector bound to his proud chariot and danced in a most barbarous round about his loved friend's sepulchre when he is slain. 'Tis vile, and draws no profit after it. But let him now awhile mark but our angers. He is spent. Let all his strength take heed it tempts not our wraths. He begets in this outrageous deed the dull earth with his fury's hate. White-wristed Juno said, being much incensed, This doom is one that thou wouldst have obeyed, thou bearer of the silver bow, that we in equal care and honour should hold Hector's worth with him that claims a share in our deservings. Hector sucked a mortal woman's breast, Aeacides a goddess's. Ourself had interest both in his infant nourishment and bringing up with state, and to the human Peleus we gave his bridal mate, because he had the immortal's love. To celebrate the feast of their high nuptials, every god was glad to be a guest, and thou fedst of his father's cates, touching thy harp in grace of that beginning of our friend, whom thy perfidious face, in his perfection, blusheth not to match with Priam's son, O thou that to betray in shame art still companion. Jove thus received her. Never give these broad terms to a god. Those two men shall not be compared, and yet, of all that trod the well-paved Ilion, none so dear to all the deities as Hector was, at least to me, for offerings most of prize his hands would never pretermit. Our altars ever stood, furnished with banquets fitting us. Odors and every good smoked in our temples, and for this, foreseeing it, his fate we mark with honour, which must stand. But to give stealth estate in his deliverance, shun we that, nor must we favour one to shame another. Privily, with wrong to Thetis' son, we must not work out Hector's right. There is a ransom due, an open course, by laws of arms, in which must humbly sue the friends of Hector, which just mean if any god would stay and use the other, 'twould not serve, for Thetis' night and day is guardian to him. But would one call Iris hither, I would give directions that for gifts the Trojan king should buy his Hector's body, which the son of Thetis shall resign. This said, his will was done. The dame that doth in vapours shine, dewy and thin, footed with storms, jumped to the sable seas, twixt Samos and sharp Imber's cliffs. The lake groaned with the press of her rough feet, and plummet-like put in an ox's horn that bears death to the raw-fed fish. She dived and found forlorn Thetis lamenting her son's fate, who was in Troy to have, far from his country, his death served. Close to her Iris stood, and said, Rise, Thetis, prudent Jove, whose counsels thirst not blood, calls for thee. Thetis answered her with asking, What's the cause the great god calls? My sad powers feared to break the immortal laws, in going filled with griefs to heaven. But he sets snares for none with coloured counsels. Not a word of him but shall be done. She said, and took a sable veil, a blacker never wore a heavenly shoulder, and gave way. Swift Iris swum before, about both rolled the brackish waves. They took their banks and flew up to Olympus, where they found Saturnius far of view, sphered with heaven's ever-being states. Minerva rose and gave her place to Thetis near to Jove, and Juno did receive her entry with a cup of gold, in which she drank to her, graced her with comfort, and the cup to her hand did refer. She drank, resigning it, and then the sire of men and gods thus entertained her. Comest thou up to these our blessed abodes, fair goddess Thetis, yet art sad, and that in so high kind as passeth sufferance? This I know, and tried thee, and now find thy will by mine ruled, which is rule to all worlds' government. Beside this trial yet, this cause sent down for thy assent, 9 days' contention hath been held amongst the immortals here for Hector's person and thy son, and some advices were to have our good spy Mercury steal from thy son the course. But that reproach I kept far off, to keep in future force thy former love and reverence. Haste then, and tell thy son the gods are angry, and myself take that wrong he hath done to Hector in worst part of all, the rather since he still detains his person. Charge him then, if he respect my will for any reason, to resign slain Hector. I will send Iris to Priam to redeem his son, and recommend fit ransom to Achilles' grace, in which right he may joy and end his vain grief. To this charge bright Thetis did employ instant endeavour. From heaven's tops she reached Achilles' tent, found him still sighing, and some friends with all their compliment soothing his humour, others some with all contention dressing his dinner, all their pains and skills consumed upon a huge wool-bearer slaughtered there. His reverend mother then came near, took kindly his fair hand, and asked him, Dear son, when will sorrow leave thee? How long time wilt thou thus eat thy heart, fed with no other food nor rest? 'Twere good thou wouldst divert thy friend's love to some lady, cheer thy spirits with such kind parts as she can quit thy grace withal. The joy of thy deserts I shall not long have, death is near, and thy all-conquering fate, whose haste thou must not haste with grief, but understand the state of things belonging to thy life, which quickly order. I am sent from Jove to advertise thee that every deity is angry with thee, himself most. That rage thus resigns in thee still to keep Hector. Quit him then, and for fit ransom free his injured person. He replied, Let him come that shall give the ransom, and the person take. Jove's pleasure must deprive men of all pleasures. This good speech, and many more, the son and mother used, in ear of all the naval station. And now to holy Ilion Saturnius Iris sent. Go, swift-footed Iris, bid Troy's king bear fit gifts, and content Achilles for his son's release. But let him greet alone the Grecian navy, not a man, excepting such a one as may his horse and chariot guide, a herald, or one old, attending him, and let him take his Hector. Be he bold, discouraged nor with death nor fear. Wise Mercury shall guide his passage till the prince be near, and, he gone, let him ride, resolved even in Achilles' tent. He shall not touch the state of his high person, nor admit the deadliest desperate of all about him, for though fierce, he is not yet unwise, nor inconsiderate, nor a man passed awe of deities, but passing free and curious to do a suppliant grace. This said, the rainbow to her feet tied whirlwinds, and the place reached instantly. The heavy court clamour and mourning filled, the sons all set about the sire, and there stood grief, and stilled tears on their garments. In the midst the old king sate, his weed all wrinkled, head and neck dust-filled. The princesses his seed, the princesses his sons' fair wives, all mourning by. The thought of friends so many and so good, being turned so soon to naught by Grecian hands, consumed their youth, rained beauty from their eyes. Iris came near the king, her sight shook all his faculties, and therefore spake she soft, and said, Be glad, Dardanides, of good occurrence, and none ill, am I ambassadress. Jove greets thee, who in care, as much as he is distant, deigns eye to thy sorrows, pitying thee. My embassy contains this charge to thee from him. He wills thou shouldst redeem thy son, bear gifts to Achilles, cheer him so, but visit him alone, none but some herald let attend, thy mules and chariot to manage for thee. Fear nor death let daunt thee, Jove hath got Hermes to guide thee, who, as near to Thetis' son as needs, shall guard thee. And being once with him, nor his nor others' deeds stand touched with, he will all contain. Nor is he mad, nor vain, nor impious, but with all his nerves studious to entertain one that submits with all fit grace. Thus vanished she like wind. He mules and chariot calls. His sons bids see them joined and bind a trunk behind it. He himself down to his wardrobe goes, built all of cedar, highly roofed and odoriferous, that much stuff worth the sight contained. To him he called his queen, thus greeting her, "Come, hapless dame, an angel I have seen, sent down from Jove, that bade me free our dear son from the fleet, with ransom pleasing to our foe. What holds thy judgment meet? My strength and spirit lays high charge on all my being to bear the Greeks' worst, venturing through their host." The queen cried out to hear his venturous purpose, and replied, "O whither now is fled the late discretion that renowned thy grave and knowing head in foreign and thine own ruled realms, that thus thou darest to say sight of that man in whose brows sticks the horrible decay of sons so many and so strong? Thy heart is iron, I think. If this stern man, whose thirst of blood makes cruelty his drink, take or but see thee, thou art dead. He nothing pities woe, nor honors age. Without his sight we have enough to do to mourn with thought of him. Keep we our palace, weep we here. Our son is past our helps. Those throes that my deliverers were of his unhappy lineaments told me that they should be torn with Blackfoot dogs. Almighty fate, that black hour he was born, spun in his springing thread that end, far from his parents' reach. This bloody fellow that ordained to be their mean, this wretch, whose stony liver would to heaven I might devour, my teeth my son's revengers made. Cursed Greek, he gave him not his death, doing an ill work. He alone fought for his country. He fled not, nor feared, but stood his worst, and cursed policy was his undoing." He replied, "Whatever was his end is not our question. We must now use all means to defend his end from scandal, from which act dissuade not my just will, nor let me nourish in my house a bird presaging ill to my good actions. 'Tis in vain. Had any earthly spirit given this suggestion, if our priests or soothsayers challenging merit of prophets, I might hold it false, and be the rather moved to keep my palace. But these ears and these self-eyes approved it was a goddess. I will go, for not a word she spake I know was idle. If it were, and that my fate will make quick riddance of me at the fleet, kill me, Achilles. Come, when getting to thee, I shall find a happy dying room on Hector's bosom, when enough thirst of my tears finds there quench to his fervor." This resolved, the works most fair and dear of his rich screens he brought abroad, 12 veils wrought curiously, 12 plain gowns, and as many suits of wealthy tapestry, as many mantles, horsemen's coats, 10 talents of fine gold, 2 tripods, cauldrons 4, a bowl whose value he did hold beyond all price, presented by the ambassadors of Thrace. The old king nothing held too dear to rescue from disgrace his gracious Hector. Forth he came. At entry of his court the Trojan citizens so pressed that this opprobrious sort of check he used. "Hence, castaways, away, ye impious crew! Are not your griefs enough at home? What come ye here to view? Care ye for my griefs? Would ye see how miserable I am? Is not enough, imagine ye? Ye might know, ere ye came, what such a son's loss weighed with me. But know this for your pains, your houses have the weaker doors. The Greeks will find their gains the easier for his loss, be sure. But, O Troy, ere I see thy ruin, let the doors of hell receive and ruin me." Thus with his scepter set he on the crowding citizens, who gave back, seeing him so urge. And now he entertains his sons as roughly: Helenus, Paris, Hippothous, Pammon, divine Agathonies, renowned Deiphobus, Agavus, and Antiphanes, and last, not least in arms, the strong Polites. These 9 sons, the violence of his harms, helped him to vent in these sharp terms. Haste, you infamous brood, and get my chariot. Would to heaven that all the abject blood in all your veins had Hector scused. O me, accursed man, all my good sons are gone. My light the shades Cimmerian have swallowed from me. I have lost Mestor, surnamed the Fair, Troilus, that ready knight-at-arms, that made his field repair ever so prompt and joyfully, and Hector, amongst men esteemed a god, not from a mortal seed, but of the eternal strain he seemed to all eyes. These are gone. You that survive are base, liars and common freebooters, all faulty, not a grace, but in your heels. In all your parts, dancing companions, ye are all excellent. Hence, ye brats, love ye to hear my moans? Will ye not get my chariot? Command it quickly, fly, that I may perfect this dear work. This all did terrify, and straight his mule-drawn chariot came, to which they fast did bind the trunk with gifts. And then came forth, with an afflicted mind, old Hecuba. In her right hand a bowl of gold she bore, with sweet wine crowned, stood near and said, Receive this, and implore, with sacrificing it to Jove, thy safe return. I see thy mind like still to go, though mine dislikes it utterly. Pray to the black cloud-gathering god, Idaean Jove, that views all Troy in all her miseries, that he will deign to use his most loved bird to ratify thy hopes, that her broad wing spread on thy right hand, thou mayest know thy zealous offering accepted, and thy safe return confirmed. But if he fail thy intent, though never so it labors to prevail. This I refuse not, he replied, for no faith is so great in Jove's high favor, but it must with held-up hands entreat. This said, the chambermaid, that held the ewer and the basin by, he bade pour water on his hands, when, looking to the sky, he took the bowl, did sacrifice, and thus implored, O Jove, from Ida using thy commands, in all deserts above all other gods, vouchsafe me safe, and pity in the sight of great Achilles, and, for trust to that wished grace, excite thy swift-winged messenger, most strong, most of air's region loved, to soar on my right hand, which sight may firmly see approved thy former summons and my speed. He prayed, and heaven's king heard, and instantly cast from his fist air's all-commanding bird, the black-winged huntress, perfectest of all fowls, which gods call Perchnos, the eagle. And how broad the chambered nuptial of any mighty man hath doors, such breadth cast either wing, which now she used, and spread them wide on right hand of the king. All saw it and rejoiced, and up to chariot he arose, drave forth, the portal and the porch resounding as he goes. His friends all followed him, and mourned as if he went to die, and bringing him past town to field, all left him, and the eye of Jupiter was then his guard, who pitied him, and used these words to Hermes, Mercury, thy help hath been profuse, ever with most grace in consorts of travellers distressed. Now consort Priam to the fleet, but so that not the least suspicion of him be attained, till at Achilles' tent the convoy hath arrived him safe. This charged incontinent he put in practice. To his feet his feathered shoes he tied, immortal, and made all of gold, with which he used to ride the rough sea and the unmeasured earth, and equalled in his pace the puffs of wind. Then took he up his rod, that hath the grace to shut what eyes he lists with sleep, and open them again in strongest trances. This he held, flew forth, and did attain to Troy and Hellespontus straight. Then, like a fair young prince, first down-chinned, and of such a grace as makes his looks convince contending eyes to view him, forth he went to meet the king. He, having passed the mighty tomb of Ilus, watering his mules in Xanthus, the dark even fell on the earth. And then Idaeus, guider of the mules, discerned this grace of men, and spake afraid to Priamus, Beware, Dardanades, our states ask counsel. I discern the dangerous access of some man near us. Now I fear we perish. Is it best to fly, or kiss his knees and ask his ruth of men distressed? Confusion struck the king. Cold fear extremely quenched his veins. Upright upon his languishing head his hair stood, and the chains of strong amaze bound all his powers. To both which then came near the prince-turned deity, took his hand, and thus bespake the peer. To what place, father, drives thou out through solitary night, when others sleep? Give not the Greeks sufficient cause of fright to these late travels, being so near, and such vowed enemies? Of all which, if with all this load any should cast his eyes on thy adventures, what would then thy mind esteem thy state? Thyself old, and thy follower old? Resistance could not rate at any value. As for me, be sure I mind no harm to thy grave person, but against the hurt of others arm. Mine own loved father did not get a greater love in me to his good than thou dost to thine. He answered, The degree of danger in my course, fair son, is nothing less than that thou urgest. But some god's fair hand puts in for my safe state, that sends so sweet a guardian in this so stern a time of night, and danger as thyself, that all grace in his prime of body and beauty showest, all answered with a mind so knowing that it cannot be but of some blessed kind thou art descended. Not untrue, said Hermes, thy conceit in all this holds, but further truth relate, if of such weight as I conceive thy carriage be, and that thy care conveys thy goods of most price to more guard. Or go ye all your ways, frighted from holy Ilion, so excellent a son as thou hadst, being your special strength, fallen to destruction, whom no Greek bettered for his fight? Oh, what art thou, said he, most worthy youth, of what race born, that thus recounts to me my wretched son's death with such truth? Now, father, he replied, you tempt me far in wondering how the death was signified of your divine son to a man so mere a stranger here as you hold me. But I am one that oft have seen him bear his person like a god in field, and when in heaps he slew the Greeks, all routed to their fleet, his so victorious view made me admire, not feel his hand, because Aeacides, incensed, admitted not our fight, myself being of access to his high person, serving him and both to Ilion, in one ship sailed. Besides, by birth I breathe a Myrmidon, Hector, called the rich, my sire, declined with age like you. 6 sons he hath, and me a 7th, and all those 6 live now in Phthia, since, all casting lots, my chance did only fall to follow hither. Now for walk I left my general. Tomorrow all the sunburned Greeks will circle Troy with arms. The princes rage to be withheld so idly. Your alarms not half given hot enough, they think, and can contain no more. He answered, If you serve the prince, let me be bold to implore this grace of thee, and tell me true, lies Hector here at fleet, or have the dogs his flesh? He said, Nor dogs nor fowls have yet touched at his person, still he lies at fleet, and in the tent of our great captain, who indeed is much too negligent of his fit usage. But though now 12 days have spent their heat on his cold body, neither worms with any taint have eat, nor putrefaction perished it. Yet ever, when the morn lifts her divine light from the sea, unmercifully borne about Patroclus' sepulchre, it bears his friend's disdain, bound to his chariot, but no fits of further outrage reign in his distemper. You would muse to see how deep a dew even steeps the body, all the blood washed off, no slenderest shew of gore or quitter, but his wounds all closed, though many were opened about him. Such a love the blessed immortals bear, even dead to thy dear son, because his life showed love to them. He joyfully answered, O my son, it is a grace supreme in any man to serve the gods. And I must needs say this, for no cause, having seasoned fit, my Hector's hands would miss advancement to the gods with gifts, and therefore do not they miss his remembrance after death. Now let an old man pray thy graces to receive this cup, and keep it for my love, nor leave me till the gods and thee have made my prayers approve Achilles' pity, by thy guide brought to this princely tent. Hermes replied, You tempt me now, old king, to a consent far from me, though youth aptly errs. I secretly receive gifts that I cannot broadly vouch, take graces that will give my lord dishonor, or what he knows not, or will esteem perhaps unfit. Such briberies perhaps at first may seem sweet and secure, but futurely they still prove sour, and breed both fear and danger. I could wish thy grave affairs did need my guide to Argos, either shipped or lackeying by thy side, and would be studious in thy guard, so nothing could be tried but care in me to keep thee safe, for that I would excuse and vouch to all men. These words past, he put the deeds in use for which Jove sent him. Up he leapt to Priam's chariot, took scourge and reins, and blew in strength to his free steeds, and got the naval towers and deep dikes straight. The guards were all at meat, those he enslumbered oped the ports, and in he safely let old Priam with his wealthy prize. Forthwith they reached the tent of great Achilles, large and high, and in his most ascent a shaggy roof of seedy reeds moaned from the meads. A hall of state they made their king in it, and strengthened it withal thick with fir rafters, whose approach was let in by a door that had but one bar, but so big that 3 men evermore raised it to shut, 3 fresh take down, which yet Aeacides would shut and ope himself. And this with far more ease Hermes set ope, entering the king, then leapt from horse and said, Now know, old king, that Mercury, a god, hath given this aid to thy endeavour, sent by Jove, and now away must I, for men would envy thy estate to see a deity affect a man thus. Enter thou, embrace Achilles' knee, and by his sire, son, mother, pray his ruth and grace to thee. This said, he high Olympus reached. The king then left his coach to grave Idaeus, and went on, made his resolved approach, and entered in a goodly room, where with his princes sate Jove loved Achilles at their feast. 2 only kept the state of his attendants, Alcimus and Lord Automedon, at Priam's entry. A great time Achilles gazed upon his wondered-at approach, nor ate, the rest did nothing see, while close he came up, with his hands fast holding the bent knee of Hector's conqueror, and kissed that large man-slaughtering hand that much blood from his sons had drawn. And as in some strange land and great man's house a man is driven with that abhorred dismay that follows wilful bloodshed still, his fortune being to slay one whose blood cries aloud for his, to plead protection in such a miserable plight as frights the lookers on. In such a stupefied estate Achilles sat to see so unexpected, so in night, and so incredibly old Priam's entry. All his friends one on another stared to see his strange looks, seeing no cause. Thus Priam then prepared his son's redemption. See in me, O godlike Thetis' son, thy aged father, and perhaps even now, being outrun with some of my woes, neighbouring foes, thou absent, taking time to do him mischief, no mean left to terrify the crime of his oppression, yet he hears thy graces still survive, and joys to hear it, hoping still to see thee safe arrive from ruined Troy. But I, Cursed man, of all my race shall live to see none living. 50 sons the deities did give my hopes to live in, all alive when near our trembling shore the Greek ships harbored, and one womb 19 of those sons bore. Now Mars, a number of their knees, hath strength less left, and he that was, of all, my only joy, and Troy's sole guard, by thee, late fighting for his country, slain, whose tendered person now I come to ransom. Infinite is that I offer you, myself conferring it, exposed alone to all your odds, only imploring right of arms. Achilles, fear the gods, pity an old man like thy sire, different in only this, that I am wretcheder, and bear that weight of miseries that never man did, my cursed lips enforced to kiss that hand that slew my children. This moved tears. His father's name did stand, mentioned by Priam, in much help to his compassion, and moved Aeacides so much he could not look upon the weeping father. With his hand he gently put away his grave face. Calm remission now did mutually display her power in either's heaviness. Old Priam to record his son's death, and his deathsman see, his tears and bosom poured before Achilles. At his feet he laid his reverend head. Achilles' thoughts, now with his sire, now with his friend, were fed. Betwixt both sorrow filled the tent, but now Aeacides, satiated all parts with the ruth of their calamities, start up, and up he raised the king. His milk-white head and beard with pity he beheld, and said, Poor man, thy mind is scarred with much affliction. How durst thy person thus alone venture on his sight, that hath slain so many a worthy son, and so dear to thee? The old heart is made of iron. Sit and settle we our woes, though huge, for nothing profits it. Cold morning wastes but our lives' heats. The gods have destinate that wretched mortals must live sad. 'Tis the immortal state of deity that lives secure. 2 tons of gifts there lie in Jove's gate, one of good, one ill, that our mortality maintain. Spoil, order, which when Jove doth mix to any man, one while he frolics, one while he mourns. If of his mournful can a man drinks only wrongs he doth expose him to. Sad hunger in the abundant earth doth toss him to and fro, respected nor of gods nor men. The mixed cup Peleus drank even from his birth. Heaven blessed his life. He lived not that could thank the gods for such rare benefits as set forth his estate. He reigned among his myrmidons most rich, most fortunate, and though a mortal, had his bed decked with a deathless dame. And yet, with all this good, one ill God mixed, that takes all name from all that goodness, his name now, whose preservation here men count the crown of their most good, not blessed with power to bear one blossom but myself, and I shaken as soon as blown, nor shall I live to cheer his age, and give nutrition to him that nourished me. Far off my rest is set in Troy, to leave thee restless and thy seed, thyself that did enjoy, as we have heard, a happy life, what Lesbos doth contain, in times past being a blessed man's seat, what the unmeasured main of Hellespontus, Phrygia holds, are all sad to adorn thy empire, wealth and sons enow. But when the gods did turn thy blessed state to partake with bane, war and the bloods of men circled thy city, never clear. Sit down and suffer then, mourn not inevitable things. Thy tears can spring no deeds to help thee, nor recall thy son. Impatience ever breeds ill upon ill, makes worse things worse, and therefore sit. He said, Give me no seat, great seat of Jove, when yet unransomed Hector lies rightless in thy tents, but deign with utmost speed his resignation, that these eyes may see his person freed, and thy grace satisfied with gifts. Accept what I have brought, and turn to Phthia. 'Tis enough thy conquering hand hath fought till Hector faltered under it, and Hector's father stood with free humanity safe." He frowned and said, "Give not my blood fresh cause of fury. I know well I must resign thy son. Jove by my mother uttered it, and what besides is done I know as amply, and thyself, old Priam, I know too. Some god hath brought thee, for no man durst use a thought to go on such a service. I have guards, and I have gates to stay easy access. Do not then presume thy will can sway, like Jove's will, and incense again my quenched blood, lest nor thou nor Jove get the command of me." This made the old king bow, and down he sat in fear. The prince leapt like a lion forth, Automedon and Alcimus attending. All the worth brought for the body they took down and brought in, and with it Idaeus, herald to the king. A coat embroidered yet, and 2 rich cloaks they left to hide the person. Thetis' son called out his women to anoint and quickly overrun the course with water, lifting it in private to the coach, lest Priam saw, and his cold blood embraced a fiery touch of anger at the turpitude profaning it, and blew again his wrath's fire to his death. This done, his women threw the coat and cloak on, but the corse Achilles' own hand laid upon a bed, and with his friends to chariot it conveyed, for which forced grace, abhorring so from his free mind, he wept, cried out for anger, and thus prayed, "O friend, do not accept against this favour to our foe, if in the deep thou hear, and that I give him to his sire. He gave fair ransom, dear in my observance is Jove's will, and whatsoever part of all these gifts by any mean I fitly may convert to thy renown here, and will there, it shall be poured upon thy honoured sepulchre." This said, he went, and what was done told Priam, saying, "Father, now thy will's fit rites are paid, thy son is given up. In the morn thine eyes shall see him laid, decked in thy chariot on his bed. In mean space let us eat." The rich-haired Niobe found thoughts that made her take her meat, though 12 dear children she saw slain, 6 daughters, 6 young sons. The sons incensed Apollo slew, the maids confusions Diana wrought, since Niobe her merits durst compare with great Latona's, arguing that she did only bear 2 children, and herself had 12, for which those only 2 slew all her 12. 9 days they lay steeped in their blood, her woe found no friend to afford them fire. Saturnius had turned humans to stones. The 10th day yet the good celestials burned the trunks themselves, and Niobe, when she was tired with tears, fell to her food, and now with rocks and wild hills mixed she bears in Sipylus the god's wrath still, in that place where 'tis said the goddess fairies used to dance about the funeral bed of Achilles, where, though turned with cold grief to a stone, heaven gives her heat enough to feel what plague comparison with his powers made by earth deserves. Affect not then too far without grief, like a god being a man, but for a man's life care, and take fit food. Thou shalt have time beside to mourn thy son. He shall be tearful, thou being full. Not here, but Ilion shall find thee weeping rooms enow." He said, and so arose, and caused the silver fleece sheep killed. His friend skills did dispose the flaying, cutting of it up, and cookly spitted it, roasted, and drew it artfully. Automedon, as fit was for the reverend sower's place, and all the brown joints served on wicker vessel to the board. Achilles' own hand curved, and close they fell to. Hunger staunched, talk and observing time was used of all hands. Priam sat amazed to see the prime of Thetis' son, accomplished so with stature, looks, and grace, in which the fashion of a god he thought had changed his place. Achilles fell to him as fast, admired as much his years, told in his grave and good aspect. His speech even charmed his ears, so ordered, so material. With this food feasted too, old Priam spake thus: Now, Jove's seed, command that I may go, and add to this feast grace of rest. These lids ne'er closed mine eyes, since under thy hands fled the soul of my dear son. Sighs, cries, and woes, all use from food and sleep have taken. The base courts of my sad palace made my beds, where all the abject sorts of sorrow I have varied, tumbled in dust and hid, no bit, no drop of sustenance touched. Then did Achilles bid his men and women see his bed laid down, and covered with purple blankets, and on them an arras coverlid, waistcoats of silk plush laying by. The women straight took lights, and 2 beds made with utmost speed, and all the other rites their lord named used, who pleasantly the king in hand thus bore: Good father, you must sleep without, lest any counsellor make his access in depth of night, as oft their industry brings them to impart our war affairs. Of whom should any eye discern your presence, his next steps to Agamemnon fly, and then I shall lose all these gifts. But go to, signify, and that with truth, how many days you mean to keep the state of Hector's funerals, because so long would I rebate mine own edge set to sack your town, and all our host contain from interruption of your rites. He answered, If you mean to suffer such rites to my son, you shall perform a part of most grace to me. But you know with how dismayed a heart our host took Troy, and how much fear will therefore apprehend their spirits to make out again, so far as we must send for wood to raise our heap of death, unless I may assure that this your high grace will stand good, and make their pass secure. Which if you seriously confirm, 9 days I mean to mourn. The 10th keep funeral and feast. The 11th raise and adore my son's fit sepulchre. The 12th, if we must needs, will fight. Be it, replied Aeacides. Do Hector all this right. I will hold war back those 12 whole days, of which, to free all fear, take this my right hand. This confirmed, the old king rested there, his herald lodged by him, and both in forepart of the tent, Achilles in an inmost room of wondrous ornament, whose side bright-cheeked Briseis warmed. Soft sleep tamed gods and men, all but most useful Mercury. Sleep could not lay one claim on his quick temples, taking care for getting off again engaged Priam undiscerned of those that did maintain the sacred watch. Above his head he stood with this demand: O father, sleep thou so secure, still lying in the hand of so much ill, and being dismissed by great Aeacides? 'Tis true thou hast redeemed the dead, but for thy life's release, should Agamemnon hear thee here, 3 times the price now paid thy son's hands must repay for thee. This said, the king, afraid, start from his sleep, Ideas called, and for both, Mercury the horse and mules, before loosed, joined so softly and curiously that no ear heard, and through the host drave. But when they drew to gulfy Xanthus' bright wave stream, up to Olympus flew industrious Mercury, and now the saffron morning rose, spreading her white robe over all the world, when, full of woes, they scourged on with the course to Troy, from whence no eye had seen, before Cassandra their return. She, like love's golden queen, ascending Pergamus, discerned her father's person nigh, his herald and her brother's course, and then she cast this cry round about Troy: O Trojans, if ever ye did greet Hector return from fight alive, now look ye out and meet his ransomed person. Then his worth was all your city's joy, now do it honor. Out all rushed, woman nor man in Troy was left, a most unmeasured cry took up their voices. Close to Scia's port they met the course, and to it headlong goes the reverend mother, the dear wife, upon it strow their hair, and lie entranced. Round about the people broke the air in lamentations, and all day had stayed the people there, if Priam had not cried, "Give way, give me but leave to bear the body home, and mourn your fills." Then cleft the press, and gave way to the chariot. To the court herald ideas drave, where on a rich bed they bestowed the honoured person, round girt it with singers that the woe with skilful voices crowned. A woeful elegy they sung, wept singing, and the dames sighed as they sung. Andromache the downright prose exclaims, began to awe. She on the neck of slaughtered Hector fell, and cried out, "O my husband, thou in youth badst youth farewell, left'st me a widow, thy sole son an infant, ourselves cursed in our birth, made him right our child. For all my care that nursed his infancy will never give life to his youth, ere that Troy from her top will be destroyed. Thou guardian of our state, thou even of all her strength the strength, thou that in care wert past her careful mothers of their babes, being gone, how can she last? Soon will the swollen fleet fill her womb with all their servitude, myself with them, and thou with me, dear son, in labours rude shall be employed, sternly surveyed by cruel conquerors. Or, rage not suffering life so long, some one, whose hate abhors thy presence, putting him in mind of his sire slain by thine, his brother, son, or friend, shall work thy ruin before mine. Tossed from some tower, for many Greeks have ate earth from the hand of thy strong father. In sad fight his spirit was too much manned, and therefore mourned his people. We, thy parents, my dear lord, for that thou makest endure a woe, black and to be abhorred. Of all yet thou hast left me worst, not dying in thy bed, and reaching me thy last raised hand, in nothing counselled, nothing commanded by that power thou hadst of me to do some deed for thy sake. Oh, for these never will end my woe, never my tears cease. Thus wept she, and all the ladies closed her passion with a general shriek. Then Hecuba disposed her thoughts in like words. O my son, of all mine much most dear, dear while thou liv'dst, too even to gods, and after death they were careful to save thee. Being best, thou most wert envied. My other sons Achilles sold, but thee he left not dead. Imber and Samos, the false ports of Lemnos, entertained their persons, thine no port but death. Nor there in rest remained thy violated course. The tomb of his great friend was feared with thy dragged person, yet from death he was not therefore reared, but all his rage used, so the gods have tendered thy dead state. Thou liest as living, sweet and fresh, as he that felt the fate of Phoebus's holy shafts. These words the queen used for a moan, and next her Helen held the state of speech and passion. O Hector, all my brothers more were not so loved of me as thy most virtues. Not my lord I held so dear as thee, that brought me hither, before which I would I had been brought to ruin. For what breeds that wish, which is the mischief wrought by my excess? Yet never found one harsh taunt, one word's ill from thy sweet carriage. 20 years do now their circles fill since my arrival, all which time thou didst not only bear thyself without check, but all else that my lord's brothers were, their sisters' lords, sisters themselves, the queen my mother-in-law, the king being never but most mild. When thy man's spirit saw soured and reproachful, it would still reprove their bitterness with sweet words, and thy gentle soul. And therefore thy decease I truly mourn for, and myself curse as the wretched cause. All broad Troy yielding me not one, that any human laws of pity or forgiveness moved to entreat me humanly. but only thee, all else abhorred me for my destiny. These words made even the commons mourn, to whom the king said, Friends, now fetch wood for our funeral fire, nor fear the foe intends ambush, or any violence. Achilles gave his word, at my dismission, that 12 days he would keep sheathed his sword, and all men's else. Thus oxen, mules, in chariots straight they put, went forth, and an unmeasured pile of sylvan matter cut. 9 days employed in carriage, but when the 10th morn shined on wretched mortals, then they brought the fit to be divine forth to be burned. Troy swum in tears. Upon the pile's most height they laid the person, and gave fire. All day it burned, all night, but when the 11th morn let on earth her rosy fingers shine, the people flocked about the pile, and first with blackish wine quenched all the flames. His brothers then, and friends, the snowy bones gathered into an urn of gold, still pouring on their moans. Then wrapped they in soft purple veils the rich urn, digged a pit, graved it, rammed up the grave with stones, and quickly built to it a sepulchre. But while that work and all the funeral rites were in performance, guards were held at all parts, days and nights, for fear of false surprise, before they had imposed the crown to these solemnities. The tomb advanced once. All the town in Jove-nursed Priam's court partook a passing sumptuous feast, and so horse-taming Hector's rites gave up his soul to rest. End of the 24th book. End of the Iliads of Homer, by Homer, translated by George Chapman.